On the worst day of my life, my husband DeAndre tried to take everything from me: my home, my sanity, and my son. He told the judge I was an unfit mother, that I was unstable, that I didn't deserve to raise my own child. But what he didn't know was that my 7-year-old son Isaiah had been watching and recording. And when that little boy stood up in that courtroom and said, "Your Honor, can I show you something my mama doesn't know about?" everything changed. Before the story begins, please leave us a comment telling us which state or city you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so this channel can grow and bring you more stories like this. I should have known something was wrong when DeAndre started complimenting me. After 15 years of marriage, my husband wasn't the complimenting type. But suddenly, out of nowhere, he'd look at me over breakfast and say things like, "Baby, you sure you slept okay? You look exhausted." Or, "Keisha, you feeling all right? You seem off today." At first, I thought he was being sweet, concerned. We lived in Southwest Atlanta in a beautiful 4-bedroom house that DeAndre's salary paid for. I'd given up my job at the bank when Isaiah was born, and for 7 years I'd been a stay-at-home mom. DeAndre worked in corporate sales, traveled often, made good money. I took care of everything else: the house, our son, the meals, the laundry, the endless details of keeping a family running. I thought we were fine. I was wrong. It started small. So small I didn't even notice at first. "Baby, did you pick up my dry cleaning?" DeAndre asked one Thursday evening. I frowned. "What dry cleaning?" "The shirts I asked you to pick up on Monday. Remember?" I didn't remember. But then again, I had a lot on my mind. Isaiah had a school project due, the kitchen sink was leaking, and I'd spent half the day dealing with our homeowner's insurance. I don't think you asked me to do that." DeAndre sighed, that long, disappointed sigh that made my stomach twist. "Keisha, I specifically told you Monday morning. I even wrote it on the calendar." I went to check the calendar. There it was, in DeAndre's handwriting. "Pick up Dee's shirts. Dry cleaner." My heart sank. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I must have forgotten." "That's the 3rd time this month you've forgotten something," DeAndre said, shaking his head. "Baby, I'm worried about you. You sure you're okay?" "I'm fine," I insisted. But a small voice in the back of my mind whispered, "Am I?" The incidents kept happening, and they got worse. One morning, I went to make coffee and couldn't find the coffee filters. I'd bought a new box just 2 days ago. I searched every cabinet in the kitchen. "DeAndre, have you seen the coffee filters?" He looked up from his phone, eyebrows raised. "The ones you put in the pantry yesterday?" "I didn't put them in the pantry. I always keep them in the cabinet above the coffee maker." He walked to the pantry, opened the door, and pulled out the box of filters from the top shelf. "Right here, baby. Where you put them." I stared at the box in his hands. "I didn't put them there." "Keisha." His voice was gentle but had an edge to it. "Who else would have put them there?" I had no answer. We lived alone with Isaiah, and my 7-year-old wasn't reorganizing the kitchen. That night, I started a notebook. I wrote down where I put things, what I did each day, conversations I had. I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't going crazy, but the notebook made it worse. Because the next week I wrote "buy milk" on my shopping list. I was sure of it. But when I got to the grocery store and checked my phone, where I'd photographed the list, it just said, "buy bread." No milk. Had I really forgotten to write it down? I started Googling. Early signs of dementia. Memory problems at 40. Forgetfulness in women. The results terrified me. Every symptom seemed to match. I stayed up late one night, reading medical articles, my hands shaking as I scrolled through symptoms. My grandmother had died of Alzheimer's. Was it starting in me? At 41? I tried to remember. Had I been confused lately? Had I done strange things? The more I questioned myself, the more uncertain I became about everything. My car keys would go missing. I'd swear I left them on the hook by the door, but they'd turn up in the bathroom cabinet or inside the linen closet. Places that made no sense. DeAndre, have you seen my keys? Again? He'd look at me with this expression, half concern, half pity. Keisha, baby, I think you need to see a doctor. This isn't normal. I'm not losing my mind, I snapped. Nobody said you were, he replied smoothly. I'm just saying, my grandmother had early onset dementia. It runs in families. Maybe you should get checked out. Dementia. The word hung in the air like poison. One afternoon I was folding laundry when DeAndre came home early. Baby, I thought you were going to start dinner already. It's almost 6. I looked at the clock. It was 4:30. It's 4:30, I said. He pulled out his phone and showed me. It's 5:45. I looked at the kitchen clock again. It said 4:30, but his phone said 5:45. The microwave clock said 5:45. My watch said 4:30. My watch was wrong. It had stopped. When did your watch stop? DeAndre asked. I don't know. I didn't notice. You've been wearing a stopped watch all day and didn't notice? I felt tears prickling my eyes. I guess so. Keisha. He put his hands on my shoulders, looking into my eyes with what seemed like genuine worry. Baby, this isn't okay. You're not yourself. That night, alone in the bathroom, I cried silently. Was he right? Was something really wrong with me? I didn't know then that he'd been the one who stopped my watch while I was asleep, that he'd changed the kitchen clock battery, that he'd been carefully, systematically, making me doubt my own mind. Then came the money. Keisha, we need to talk about the credit card, DeAndre said one night after Isaiah went to bed. He showed me a statement. Charges for designer handbags, expensive dinners, spa treatments, thousands of dollars. My mouth went dry. I didn't buy any of this. It's your card, your name. DeAndre, I swear to God I didn't. Baby. He took my hands, his voice gentle but firm. I'm not mad. I know you've been stressed. Maybe you just don't remember? I would remember spending $3,000. Would you? You can't remember where you put your keys half the time. You can't remember conversations we had yesterday. Keisha, I love you, but you need help. I pulled my hands away. I didn't buy those things. Someone must have stolen the card. The card is still in your wallet, he said patiently. I checked. He had me there. The card was in my wallet, but I knew. I hadn't made those purchases. I started checking the credit card statement online every single day, writing down every purchase I made in my notebook, keeping receipts, trying to prove I wasn't spending money I couldn't remember spending. But more charges kept appearing, always when I couldn't account for my time, always just believable enough that I couldn't prove it wasn't me. And all the while, DeAndre watched me spiral with those concerned eyes, his voice always so calm, so reasonable. Maybe you should talk to someone, baby, a therapist, someone who can help you figure out what's going on. The worst part wasn't the forgotten errands or the misplaced keys. The worst part was how DeAndre started treating me in front of Isaiah. My son was 7 years old, smart as a whip, with his father's brown eyes and my stubborn chin. He loved dinosaurs and Legos and asking a million questions about everything. He was my whole world, and DeAndre was slowly poisoning him against me. It was subtle at first. One Saturday morning, I was making pancakes with Isaiah. It was our thing. Saturday morning pancakes together. He stood on his step stool, helping me measure the flour, telling me about his week at school. And then Marcus said dinosaurs aren't real, Mama. Can you believe that? I told him they are real. We have bones and everything. That's right, baby. Dinosaurs were definitely real. DeAndre walked into the kitchen, already dressed for the day in crisp khakis and a polo shirt. Isaiah, did you brush your teeth yet? Yes, Daddy. DeAndre walked over to the bathroom, came back a moment later. Your toothbrush is bone dry, son. Why did you lie to your daddy? Isaiah's little face fell. I forgot. That's okay, champ, DeAndre said, ruffling his hair. Your mama forgets things all the time, too. Right, Keisha? He said it with a smile, like it was a joke we were all in on together. Isaiah giggled nervously. I felt something crack inside my chest. Go brush your teeth, baby, I said quietly. As Isaiah ran off, DeAndre poured himself coffee. You're making pancakes wrong, by the way. Too much milk. They're going to be soggy. I've been making pancakes the same way for 7 years. And they're always soggy. He took a sip of his coffee and walked out. When Isaiah came back, I tried to keep the mood light. We finished the pancakes together. But when I served them, Isaiah took one bite and looked at his father. They're kind of soggy, Mama. DeAndre smiled at me over his newspaper. That small, triumphant smile that said, See? Even your son knows you can't do anything right. As the weeks went on, it got worse. I'd be helping Isaiah with his homework, and DeAndre would come over and look at what we were doing. Actually, that's not how you do long division. You're going to confuse him. I'm not confusing him. This is how they teach it at his school. Isaiah, who do you want to help you? Mama or Daddy? Isaiah would look between us, this little boy caught in the middle, and my heart would break as he whispered, Daddy. Every decision I made was questioned. Every rule I set was undermined. Every time I disciplined Isaiah, DeAndre would swoop in and be the fun parent who let him do whatever he wanted. One evening, Isaiah asked if he could have ice cream before dinner. After dinner, baby, I said. But I want it now, he whined. I said after dinner. Isaiah's lips started to quiver. He ran to DeAndre. Daddy, Mama won't let me have ice cream. DeAndre scooped him up. It's okay, champ. Daddy will get you some ice cream. Mama's just being mean today. I'm not being mean. I'm trying to make sure he eats dinner first. One scoop of ice cream isn't going to kill him, Keisha. Stop being so uptight. He took Isaiah to the kitchen and served him a big bowl of ice cream. Isaiah ate it happily, and when dinner time came an hour later, he barely touched his plate. See? I said to DeAndre. This is why I said no ice cream. Or maybe your cooking just isn't that good tonight, DeAndre replied. It was a paper cut. Small, but it bled, and those paper cuts were adding up. There was the day I planned a trip to the park with Isaiah. We were going to feed the ducks, his favorite thing. I'd packed bread and crackers, and we were heading out the door when DeAndre stopped us. Actually, I was thinking we could go to the arcade today. What do you think, champ? Arcade or boring ducks? Arcade! Isaiah shouted, jumping up and down. My heart sank. But we planned. Plans change, DeAndre said, already leading Isaiah to his car. You can come if you want, or you can stay home and rest. You look tired. I stayed home. I sat in the quiet house and cried. When they came back 3 hours later, Isaiah was carrying a giant stuffed bear and talking non-stop about all the games they'd played. Did you thank Daddy? I asked. Thank you, Daddy. Isaiah hugged DeAndre. Anything for my best buddy, DeAndre said, looking at me. We don't need Mama for everything, do we? Slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice. My son started pulling away from me. He stopped coming to me when he scraped his knee. He went to Daddy. He stopped asking me to read him bedtime stories. He wanted Daddy. One night, I tried to help him with a math worksheet, and he pulled it away from me. Daddy says you get confused with numbers. Baby, I'm not confused. It's okay, Mama. His little voice was so serious, so much older than 7. Daddy says it's not your fault. You just need help. I excused myself to the bathroom and sobbed silently into a towel. I was being erased from my own son's life, one tiny moment at a time. And the worst part? Isaiah was starting to look at me the way DeAndre did, with pity, like I was broken, like I was someone who needed to be managed, not trusted. DeAndre had turned my baby against me, and I didn't know how to get him back. The night everything shattered, I was making dinner. Baked chicken, rice, and green beans, Isaiah's favorite. I had checked the oven twice, set a timer on my phone, written myself a note. I was so paranoid about messing up that I'd become hypervigilant about every little thing. But somehow, I still burned the chicken. The smoke alarm went off. Isaiah came running into the kitchen. DeAndre appeared in the doorway, that expression already forming on his face. What happened? Isaiah asked, waving smoke away from his face. I burned dinner, I said, pulling the pan from the oven. The chicken was black on top, clearly ruined. I'm sorry, baby. I got distracted and... You got distracted, DeAndre repeated. He didn't yell. He never yelled. That would have been easier. Instead, he looked at me with that expression again. Concern mixed with pity, mixed with something else I couldn't name. Keisha, baby, you're not yourself lately. I just burned dinner. People burn dinner. It's not just the dinner. It's everything. The keys, the appointments you miss, the things you forget, the bills that don't get paid. What bills? I pay all the bills. Do you? He pulled out his phone, showed me overdraft notices. The electric company called me at work today, said our payment bounced. My hands started shaking. That's impossible. I paid that bill last week. I remember. Do you? Do you really remember? Or do you just think you remember? Isaiah was watching us from the table, his little face scrunched up with worry. Daddy, is Mama sick? He asked quietly. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. No, baby. I'm fine. She's fine, DeAndre echoed, but his tone said something different. Your mama is just going through something right now. But don't worry, champ. Daddy's gonna take care of everything. He ordered pizza for dinner. Isaiah was happy. Kids love pizza. But I couldn't eat. I sat at the table, pushing pepperoni around my plate, feeling like a ghost in my own home. After Isaiah went to bed, DeAndre sat me down on the couch. I think you should see someone, he said gently. A doctor? A therapist. Maybe someone who can help you with the stress, the forgetfulness, the mood swings. I don't have mood swings. Keisha, you just yelled at me. His voice was so calm, so reasonable. This is what I'm talking about. You're not acting like yourself. Maybe I'm not myself because my husband is making me feel crazy. The words burst out of me before I could stop them. DeAndre stood up slowly, his face hardening. I'm trying to help you, but if you don't want my help, fine. Just don't take it out on Isaiah. Take what out on Isaiah? I haven't done anything to Isaiah. You're scaring him, Keisha. All this yelling, this paranoia, this instability. He's 7 years old. He shouldn't have to deal with his mother falling apart. The word hit me like a slap. Falling apart. I'm not falling apart, I whispered. But DeAndre was already walking away, shaking his head like I was a lost cause. I sat alone in the dark living room for hours that night. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing on the street. I felt so small, so alone, so confused. Was I falling apart? I thought about my grandmother, the way she'd gotten confused in her last years, calling me by my mother's name, forgetting where she was. Was that happening to me? I pulled out my phone and Googled again. Am I going crazy? How to know if you're having a mental breakdown. Gaslighting symptoms. That last one made me pause. Gaslighting. I clicked the link and started reading. The article described a form of psychological manipulation where someone makes another person doubt their own reality. It listed signs. Being told you're too sensitive, constantly apologizing, feeling confused all the time, wondering if you're going crazy. I felt cold all over. Every single sign applied to me. But that couldn't be right. DeAndre loved me. We'd been together for 15 years. He was concerned about me, not manipulating me. Wasn't he? I closed the article and put my phone away. I was being paranoid. That's what happens when you read too much online. You start diagnosing yourself with things you don't have. I went to bed that night still doubting myself. I didn't know then that DeAndre had been planning this for months. I didn't know that every forgotten errand, every misplaced item, every confusing moment had been carefully orchestrated. I didn't know that my husband was trying to gaslight me into believing I was mentally unfit so he could take everything from me. My home, my money, and worst of all, my son. But Isaiah knew. I didn't realize Isaiah had been paying attention. Children see more than we think. They hear the late-night arguments through bedroom walls. They notice when Mama's eyes are red from crying. They feel the tension in a house that used to feel like home. Isaiah saw everything. He saw his father hide my car keys in the linen closet when I went to take out the trash. He saw his father pocket the electric bill payment I'd left on the counter to mail. He saw his father change the time on the kitchen clock while I was in the shower. But Isaiah was 7. He didn't fully understand what he was witnessing. He just knew something was very wrong, and it scared him. One night, about 3 weeks before everything exploded, Isaiah couldn't sleep. He got out of bed to get a glass of water and heard voices in the kitchen. Adult voices, his father's voice, and a woman's voice that wasn't his mother's. He crept down the hallway and peeked around the corner. His mama was upstairs in bed, asleep. But his daddy was in the kitchen with a woman Isaiah had seen before. The pretty lady who smiled too much. The one who'd been at the grocery store that time when Daddy pretended not to know her. The one at the park who'd waved but then acted like a stranger. Isaiah watched from his hiding spot as his father kissed the woman. His stomach felt funny. This was bad. This was a secret. And his mama had always told him that secrets that hurt people are not okay. The woman sat on the counter, right where Mama always told Isaiah not to sit, and laughed at something Daddy said. "How much longer do we have to wait?" the woman asked. "Not long now," Daddy replied. "She's falling apart exactly like we planned. In a few more weeks I'll file for divorce. With all the evidence I've gathered, there's no way she'll get custody. And the house? Mine. The money? Mine. Isaiah? Mine. She'll be lucky if she gets supervised visitation." The woman wrapped her arms around Daddy's neck. "I can't wait to live here with you, to be Isaiah's new mama." Something in Isaiah's chest went cold. This woman thought she was going to replace his mama? He wanted to run in and yell at them, but he was scared, so instead, he crept back to his room as quietly as possible. Isaiah lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, his old tablet clutched in his hands. The tablet with the cracked screen that Mama said was too dangerous to use. But Isaiah had kept it because it still worked. And right now, he needed it to work. He didn't know what he was going to do with what he'd seen. He just knew he needed to remember. He needed proof. Because somehow, even at 7 years old, Isaiah understood that grown-ups didn't always tell the truth. The next day, Isaiah started paying closer attention. He noticed how Daddy would move Mama's things when she wasn't looking, and then act surprised when she couldn't find them. He noticed how Daddy would delete things from the calendar on the fridge and then tell Mama she'd forgotten to write them down. He noticed how Daddy was always on his phone, texting and smiling, and how he'd quickly put it away whenever Mama walked into the room, and Isaiah made a decision. The next time the pretty lady came to the house, and she came twice more over the next 2 weeks, always when Mama was out running errands or picking up Isaiah from school, Isaiah recorded them. He hid behind the big potted plant in the living room with his old, cracked tablet, pressed record, and captured everything. Their kisses, their plans, their cruel laughter about how stupid his Mama was for not seeing through the manipulation. Isaiah didn't understand all the words, but he understood enough. His daddy was a bad man, and somehow, some way, Isaiah was going to help his Mama. 3 days later, the worst day of my life started like any other Tuesday morning. I made breakfast. DeAndre barely looked at me. Isaiah was quiet, pushing his scrambled eggs around his plate. He'd been quieter than usual lately, and it worried me. But when I asked if he was okay, he just nodded. "You okay, baby?" I asked again, touching his forehead to check for fever. "I'm okay, Mama," he said softly. After they left for school and work, I cleaned up breakfast, started a load of laundry, and was planning my grocery run when I heard a knock at the door. A delivery driver handed me a thick envelope. "Keisha Williams?" "Yes." "Sign here, please." My hands shook as I signed. The envelope was heavy, official looking. The return address showed a law firm, Henderson and Associates, Family Law, Atlanta, GA. I stood in my doorway, envelope in hand, as the driver walked away. My heart was pounding. I didn't want to open it, but I had to. I went inside, sat on the couch, and tore open the envelope. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The words blurred as I tried to read them. DeAndre was divorcing me. He was claiming I was an unfit mother. He wanted full custody of Isaiah. He wanted the house, the car, everything. I flipped through page after page. Photos of our house looking like a disaster. Dishes piled up. Toys everywhere. Unmade beds. I remembered those days. I'd had the flu, been bedridden for 3 days. DeAndre had taken those photos while I was too sick to get out of bed. Credit card statements showing thousands in charges for luxury items I'd never bought. A psychological evaluation from a Dr. Simone Valencia, someone I'd never met, claiming I was emotionally volatile, neglectful of my child's basic needs, and potentially dangerous to the minor child's well-being. My vision went dark around the edges. This couldn't be real. I called DeAndre's phone, straight to voicemail. I called again, and again, and again. Finally, on the 7th call, he answered. "What do you want, Keisha?" "What do I want? DeAndre, what the hell is this? You're divorcing me? You're trying to take Isaiah?" "I'm protecting my son from an unstable woman. I'm not unstable." "Really? How many times have you lost your keys this month? How many bills have you forgotten? How many times have you had a meltdown in front of Isaiah? The credit card debt you've racked up. The way you can barely function. You did this. You made me think I was losing my mind. You moved my things. You... See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Paranoid accusations. Conspiracy theories. You need help, Keisha. And until you get it, you're not safe around our son." He hung up. I sat on my living room floor, divorce papers scattered around me like fallen leaves, and the full horror of what he'd done crashed over me like a wave. For months, maybe even years, he'd been building a case against me, documenting every forgotten task he'd sabotaged, photographing every mess he'd created or waited for me to accumulate when I was sick, running up charges on my credit card that he had access to, hiring a psychologist to write a damning report based on God knows what. All of it carefully constructed to make me look mentally unfit. And now he was going to use it all to take my son away from me. I collapsed weakly onto the cold hardwood floor and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. I don't know how long I lay there. An hour, maybe 2. The sun moved across the floor and I didn't move with it. Eventually, my phone rang. It was my best friend from church, Denise. I must have butt-dialed her during one of my frantic calls to DeAndre. "Girl, I've been calling you for 20 minutes. Are you okay?" I wasn't okay, but hearing her voice broke something loose in me. "Denise," I sobbed. "He's trying to take Isaiah." "Who?" "DeAndre." "What are you talking about?" I told her everything. The divorce papers, the accusations, the custody battle. "Oh, hell no," Denise said firmly. "Not on my watch. I'm coming over right now." She lived 15 minutes away. She made it in 10. Denise took one look at me, still on the floor, surrounded by legal papers, and got down on her knees and hugged me. "We're going to fix this," she said. "But first, you need to get up. You need to wash your face, and then we're going to find you a lawyer." "I don't have money for a lawyer." "Then we'll find one who'll work with you. Come on, girl. Stand up. You're stronger than this." I didn't feel strong, but I stood up anyway. Denise knew a lawyer. Not a fancy downtown lawyer. I couldn't afford that. But a good man with a small practice who helped women like me. His name was Marcus Abernathy. "He helped my cousin when she went through her divorce," Denise explained as we drove to his office in her car. "He's not flashy, but he's smart, and he cares." Attorney Abernathy's office was on the second floor of an old strip mall on Cascade Road. The paint was peeling outside, and the stairs creaked. But when we walked into his office, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Marcus Abernathy was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair, thick glasses, and a calm, steady presence that made me want to trust him. He had photos on his wall, him with Martin Luther King Jr., Boulevard Elementary students, him at a community center, him receiving some kind of service award. This was a man who helped people. "Mrs. Williams," he said, shaking my hand gently. "Sit down. Tell me what's going on." So I did. I told him everything. The gaslighting, the manipulation, the missing keys, the moved objects, the credit card charges. How DeAndre had systematically destroyed my confidence for months. How he'd poisoned my son against me. How he was now using it all to take Isaiah away. Attorney Abernathy listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and exhaled slowly. "Mrs. Williams." "Keisha, please." "Keisha," he said gently, "what you're describing is textbook psychological abuse. It's called gaslighting." I felt something unlock in my chest. Gaslighting? Yes. It's a form of emotional manipulation where someone makes another person doubt their own reality, their own sanity. It's real. It's damaging. And it's more common than you'd think, especially in custody cases. Tears spilled down my cheeks. "So I'm not crazy?" "No, Keisha. You're not crazy. You've been deliberately manipulated by someone you trusted. That's not your fault." I sobbed with relief. Someone believed me. Someone understood. "But," Attorney Abernathy continued, his voice becoming serious, "gaslighting is psychological abuse. It's real and it's damaging, but it's extremely hard to prove in court. What we need is evidence that contradicts his narrative." "I don't have any evidence." He was so careful. "Then we'll have to build a case based on your testimony and character witnesses. It won't be easy. His lawyer is Gerald Cromwell. I saw the letterhead on those papers. Cromwell is ruthless. He's going to try to break you on the stand, make you look hysterical, emotional, unstable. Exactly what the report says you are. So what do I do? You stay calm, he said, looking directly into my eyes. You tell the truth. You trust that the truth will come out, and you let me fight for you. Can you do this? Can you really help me? Attorney Abernathy was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I can't guarantee we'll win. Your husband has money for expensive lawyers. He has documentation. Even if it's manufactured, it looks real on paper. And judges tend to believe psychological evaluations from licensed professionals. My heart sank. But, he continued, I've seen worse cases than this. I've seen women who everyone said didn't have a chance walk out with their kids. So yes, I can help you. The question is, are you ready to fight? I thought about Isaiah, my baby boy, the way he used to curl up in my lap for bedtime stories, the way he'd run to me when he got hurt, the way he'd say, I love you, Mama, every night before bed. Yes, I said firmly. I'm ready to fight. Good. Attorney Abernathy pulled out a legal pad. Then let's get started. We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. He asked me to write down every instance of gaslighting I could remember. Every time DeAndre had moved my things or changed something and then claimed I'd done it. Every time he'd told me I was forgetting things when I knew I wasn't. Dates if you can remember them, he said. Details matter. He also had me write down every good memory I had with Isaiah, every milestone, every moment that showed I was a good mother. We're going to need character witnesses, he explained. Friends, family, teachers, anyone who can testify that you're a good mother and that Isaiah is happy with you. What about the credit card charges? I asked. How do I prove I didn't make those? We'll subpoena the security footage from those stores if we can. We'll check IP addresses for online purchases. We'll look at timestamps. Were you somewhere else when those purchases were made? Did anyone see you? It's tedious work, but we'll find inconsistencies. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't alone. As we were wrapping up, Attorney Abernathy looked at me seriously. Keisha, I need you to be prepared for something. DeAndre hasn't moved out, right? No. He's still living in the house. Georgia law doesn't require him to leave during divorce proceedings, which means you're going to have to live under the same roof as the man trying to destroy you until this is resolved. That's going to be hell. I can handle it. I know you can, he said. But it's not just about handling it. You need to be smart. Don't engage if he tries to provoke you. Don't argue in front of Isaiah. Keep records of everything. If he says something cruel, write it down. If he does something suspicious, note it. This is war now, and you need to start thinking like it. I nodded, my jaw set with determination. And Keisha? Attorney Abernathy said as I stood to leave. You're not crazy. Don't let him make you think you are. Not even for a second. Those words stayed with me as Denise drove me home. I wasn't crazy. I was a woman who'd been systematically abused, and I was going to fight back. The weeks leading up to the trial were the worst of my life. DeAndre didn't move out. He stayed in the house, sleeping in the guest room, acting like nothing was wrong. Every morning he'd come downstairs looking perfect in his pressed shirt and tie. He'd kiss Isaiah on the forehead, tell him to have a good day at school, and completely ignore me. It was psychological warfare. The first morning after I got the divorce papers, I tried to talk to him. DeAndre, we need to discuss. I have nothing to say to you except through my lawyer, he said coldly, not even looking at me. But Isaiah. My lawyer will be in touch about custody arrangements. He grabbed his briefcase and walked out. Isaiah watched this exchange with confused eyes. Mama, why is Daddy mad at you? I knelt down to his level, forcing a smile. Daddy and I are having some grown-up problems, baby. But it has nothing to do with you. We both love you so much. Are you getting divorced? My heart broke. Yes, baby, we are. Is it because of me? No. I pulled him into a hug. No, baby. This has nothing to do with you. This is between me and Daddy. You are perfect. You are loved. Don't ever think otherwise. But I could see the confusion and fear in his eyes. And I knew DeAndre was counting on that. Living under the same roof was torture. DeAndre would do little things, so small that if I complained, I'd look petty. But they added up. He'd use all the hot water in the morning shower, leaving me with ice-cold water. He'd leave dishes in the sink that I'd just cleaned, then walk away. He'd park his car in a way that blocked mine in the driveway, forcing me to ask him to move it. Sometimes he would. Sometimes he'd say, I'm busy. You'll have to wait. One time, I had to pick up Isaiah from school, and DeAndre's car was blocking mine. I knocked on his home office door. I need you to move your car. Isaiah's dismissal is in 10 minutes. I'm on a conference call. Then give me your keys and I'll move it. No. DeAndre, I need to get our son. Our son? Or your son that you're about to lose custody of? He said it so casually, not even looking away from his computer. I called the school and told them I'd be late. I was 30 minutes late picking up Isaiah. He was the last kid waiting with the teacher, looking small and scared. I'm so sorry, baby, I said, hugging him tight. Daddy picked me up, Isaiah said. The school called him. My blood went cold. I looked up and saw DeAndre's car parked across the lot. He was sitting in it, watching me with a small smile. He'd blocked my car on purpose, so I'd be late. So he could be the good parent who showed up when I didn't. Another paper cut. At night, I'd lie in bed and hear him moving around downstairs. What was he doing? Moving more things? Planting more evidence? I started sleeping with my door locked. But the worst part was watching him manipulate Isaiah. DeAndre doubled down on being the fun dad. He came home from work with gifts almost every day. A new video game, a new toy, a new bike that was way too expensive. Wow, Daddy! Thank you! Isaiah's face would light up. DeAndre would glance at me. You're welcome, champ. Daddy takes care of his best buddy. The implication was clear. Daddy provides. Mama doesn't. One Saturday, DeAndre took Isaiah to Six Flags without telling me. They left early in the morning while I was in the shower. I came downstairs to find a note on the kitchen counter. Took Isaiah out for a boys' day. We'll be back when we're back. I spent the entire day anxious and angry, pacing the house, not knowing when my son would return. They came back at 10 p.m. Isaiah was exhausted, carrying a giant stuffed animal, talking about all the rides he went on. Did you have fun, baby? So much fun, Mama. Daddy let me go on all the big rides. That's great, baby, but it's way past your bedtime. Let's get you ready for bed. I'm not tired, Isaiah protested. Yes, you are. You're exhausted. No, I'm not. DeAndre stepped in. Let the boy stay up a little longer, Keisha. He had a big day. It's 10 p.m. on a school night. He needs sleep. You're being controlling again, DeAndre said, just loud enough for Isaiah to hear. This is what I'm talking about, champ. Your mama doesn't want you to have fun. Isaiah looked between us, and I saw it. The seed of resentment being planted. I gave in. Fine. 30 more minutes. Thanks, Mama, Isaiah said, but his voice was flat, like he was thanking me for permission he shouldn't have needed to ask for in the first place. DeAndre had won again. The manipulation was relentless. One evening, I was making Isaiah's lunch for the next school day. turkey sandwich, apple slices, crackers, a juice box. The same lunch I made him every day. Isaiah came into the kitchen and peered into his lunchbox. "Can I have Lunchables tomorrow instead?" he asked. "We have turkey, baby. Lunchables are expensive." "But all the other kids have Lunchables." "I make you a good lunch with fresh ingredients. That's better than processed food." Isaiah's face fell. He went to DeAndre in the living room. I heard them talking in low voices. Then Isaiah came back. "Daddy says if I lived with him, I could have Lunchables every day." It felt like a knife between my ribs. "Go to bed, Isaiah," I said quietly. After he left, I stood in the kitchen alone and cried silently over a half-made turkey sandwich. This was my life now. A war in my own home. A battle for my son's love, and I was losing. Every night I'd lie in bed and write in my notebook. Every small cruelty. Every manipulation. Every time DeAndre undermined me. Attorney Abernathy had told me to document everything, so I did. But some nights, I'd read back through my notes and wonder, is this really happening? Or am I being paranoid like DeAndre says? That's what gaslighting does. Even when you know what it is, even when you can name it, it still makes you doubt yourself. I started attending a support group for women going through divorce. Denise found it for me. Every Tuesday night, I'd sit in a circle with other women, and we'd share our stories. One woman's husband had cheated on her with her sister. Another woman's husband had hidden money in offshore accounts. One woman's husband was just like mine, systematically destroying her mental health so he could take the kids. He used to tell me I was imagining things, she said, tears streaming down her face, that I was paranoid, that I was crazy, and I started to believe him. "But you're not crazy," the group leader said gently. "You were being abused. There's a difference." Those words echoed in my head as I drove home. I was being abused, not with fists, but with words, with manipulation, with systematic destruction of my sense of self. And I needed to remember that, because the trial was coming, and I needed to be ready. Then she showed up. I'd suspected there was another woman, the perfume on his clothes that wasn't mine, the late-night work calls where he'd go outside to talk, the way he smiled at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. But I didn't know who she was until the trial. Her name was Dr. Simone Valencia. The first time I saw her was at the preliminary hearing, just a quick court session to set dates and discuss temporary custody arrangements. I was sitting with Attorney Abernathy when she walked in with DeAndre's lawyer. She was beautiful, professional, put together in a way I no longer felt. Navy blazer, pencil skirt, hair in a sleek bun. She carried a leather portfolio and walked with confidence. And she was looking at my husband like he was the only person in the room. "Who is that?" I whispered to Attorney Abernathy. He checked his papers. "Dr. Simone Valencia, the psychologist who wrote the evaluation." My stomach dropped. That's her? The woman who had written those horrible things about me, that I was unstable, neglectful, dangerous to my own child, was looking at my husband with familiar, intimate eyes. And then I smelled it. That perfume. The one I'd been smelling on DeAndre's clothes for months. It was her. During the hearing, she sat behind DeAndre and his lawyer, perfectly still, perfectly professional. But I saw the way her hand briefly touched DeAndre's shoulder as he sat down, the way his hand covered hers for just a moment before she pulled away. They thought no one noticed. I noticed. After the hearing, I pulled Attorney Abernathy aside. "That's her," I said urgently. "That's the woman he's been seeing. Can you prove it?" I smelled her perfume. It's the same one that's been on his shirts. That's not enough. I saw them touch. Keisha, Attorney Abernathy said gently. Even if we could prove they're having an affair, it doesn't necessarily help our case. She's still a licensed psychologist. Her evaluation still stands unless we can prove it was fraudulent. Right now, it's just your word against her professional credentials. But it's not fair. She's biased. She's his mistress. I know, and I'll do everything I can to expose that. But we need hard evidence. I went home that day feeling hopeless. DeAndre wasn't just taking my son. He was doing it with help from the woman he was sleeping with. The woman who'd written lies about me on official letterhead. The woman who was going to testify in court that I was an unfit mother. And there was nothing I could do about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Simone Valencia, about how she'd looked at DeAndre, about the report she'd written. I got up and reread the evaluation by phone light, even though Attorney Abernathy had told me not to torture myself with it. Subject was observed at Lenox Square Mall on March 15th. Subject grabbed minor child roughly by the arm and spoke to him in an elevated, aggressive tone in front of other shoppers. Child appeared frightened and withdrawn. March 15th. I remembered that day. Isaiah had run toward the down escalator, and I'd grabbed him to stop him from falling. I wasn't being aggressive. I was terrified he'd get hurt, but she'd twisted it. Subject was observed at Piedmont Park on March 28th. Subject was on her phone, appearing disengaged from minor child who was playing unsupervised. When minor child fell, subject's reaction was extreme and theatrical, which appeared to further traumatize the child rather than comfort him. March 28th. I'd been texting my mother about what to make for dinner. Isaiah had tripped over his own shoelaces, something he did 3 times a week. I'd run to him, checked if he was okay, kissed his scraped knee. He'd been fine within 2 minutes, but she'd made it sound like I was neglectful and then hysterical. Every observation was twisted. Every normal parenting moment was reframed as evidence of my instability. And this woman was going to testify against me in court. I put the phone down and cried silent tears in the darkness. The trial started on a cold morning in late October. I wore my best dress, the navy blue one I'd worn to my cousin's wedding last year. It was the nicest thing I owned. I'd straightened my hair, put on makeup, tried to look pulled together and stable. Attorney Abernathy had coached me for hours. Stay calm no matter what they say. Answer the questions directly. Don't let Cromwell provoke you. He's going to try to make you emotional, make you look unstable. That's his whole strategy. Don't give him what he wants. What if I can't help it? What if I cry? Then you cry, he said gently. But don't yell. Don't argue. Don't lose your temper. That's what they want. They want you to prove their point. The courtroom was cold and intimidating. High wooden walls, heavy chairs, and the judge's bench looking down at everyone like the throne of God himself. DeAndre was already there with his lawyer, Attorney Gerald Cromwell. Cromwell was exactly what I'd imagined. Expensive suit, slicked back hair, the kind of confident smirk that said he'd never lost a case in his life. Behind them sat Simone Valencia in her professional armor. Blazer, pearls, that perfect bun. She looked like she belonged in a courtroom. I felt like an imposter. The judge entered. Everyone stood. You may be seated. And so it began. Attorney Cromwell went first. He painted a picture of DeAndre as a concerned father, a hard-working provider, a man forced to take drastic action to protect his son from an increasingly unstable wife. He showed the photos. Our house in disarray. Dishes piled up, toys scattered, unmade beds. He didn't mention I'd been sick with the flu when those photos were taken. He showed the credit card statements. Thousands of dollars in charges for luxury items I'd never bought. Your Honor, while Mr. Williams worked hard to provide for his family, his wife was at home spending money they didn't have on frivolous purchases she couldn't even remember making. He made me sound like a lazy, wasteful burden. Then he called his first witness, DeAndre. My husband took the stand, placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. But everything that came out of his mouth was a lie. How would you describe your wife's behavior over the past year? Cromwell asked. Increasingly erratic, DeAndre said, his voice heavy with fake sadness. She forgets things constantly, important things. She missed Isaiah's parent-teacher conference. She forgot to pick him up from school twice. She's burned dinner so many times I've lost count. None of those things were true. Not the way he was telling them. I'd missed the parent-teacher conference because DeAndre had changed the date on the calendar. I'd been late picking up Isaiah because DeAndre had blocked my car. The burned dinners happened when I was sick, or when I was so stressed I couldn't think straight. Stress he'd caused. But sitting in that courtroom, hearing him tell these lies so smoothly, so believably, I felt small and powerless. And what concerned you most? Cromwell asked. Her behavior around Isaiah, DeAndre said. She's been short with him, impatient. Sometimes she seems confused about basic things, and it scares him. Your Honor, Cromwell continued, Mr. Williams is not trying to punish his wife. He's trying to protect his son. He's watched the woman he loves deteriorate mentally, and he's terrified for his child's safety. DeAndre even managed to make his eyes look glassy, like he was fighting back tears. I wanted to scream. When Attorney Abernathy had his turn to cross-examine, he tried his best. Mr. Williams, you claim your wife has been forgetting things. But isn't it true that you have access to the family calendar? That you could change dates without her knowledge? Why would I do that? DeAndre looked genuinely confused, like the idea was absurd. And these credit card charges, you have an additional card on that account, correct? Yes, for emergencies. So theoretically, you could have made those purchases? I didn't. But you could have? Objection, Cromwell said. Speculation. Sustained, the judge said. Attorney Abernathy was hitting a wall. Every question he asked, DeAndre had a smooth answer. Every doubt he tried to raise, Cromwell shut down. I could see it on Attorney Abernathy's face. We were losing. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. The plaintiff calls Dr. Simone Valencia to the stand. Simone Valencia walked to the witness stand like she owned the room. Confident, professional, credible. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat down with perfect posture. Attorney Cromwell smiled at her like they were old friends. Dr. Valencia, can you please explain your qualifications? Certainly. I have a PhD in clinical psychology from Emory University. I've been a licensed psychologist in the state of Georgia for 12 years. I specialize in child psychology and family dynamics. She had all the right credentials. On paper, she was exactly the kind of expert a judge would trust. And you were hired to evaluate Mrs. Williams's fitness as a mother? Yes. I conducted observational assessments over a 3-month period. Can you describe your methodology? I observed Mrs. Williams's interactions with her son in various natural settings, public parks, shopping centers, the school pickup line. Natural observation provides the most authentic data, as subjects aren't performing for an evaluator. It all sounded so professional, so scientific. And what did you observe? Simone opened her portfolio and began reading from her notes, her voice calm and measured. On multiple occasions, I witnessed concerning behavior. For example, on March 15th at Lenox Square Mall, I observed Mrs. Williams physically grab her son roughly and speak to him in an elevated, hostile manner. The child appeared frightened. I wanted to jump up and scream the truth, but I couldn't. I sat frozen, my hands clenched in my lap. On another occasion at Piedmont Park, Mrs. Williams was engrossed in her phone while her son played unsupervised. When the child fell, her reaction was delayed and then overly dramatic, which seemed to traumatize the child further rather than comfort him. She went through observation after observation, each one a normal parenting moment twisted into something sinister. Based on your professional assessment, Dr. Valencia, what is your conclusion? Simone looked directly at the judge, her expression serious and concerned. In my professional opinion, Mrs. Williams exhibits signs of emotional instability and poor judgment. Her parenting style is inconsistent and potentially harmful to the minor child's psychological development. I would not recommend sole custody or even primary custody. The child would benefit from a more stable environment with his father. The words hit me like physical blows. Attorney Abernathy stood for cross-examination. Dr. Valencia, you observed Mrs. Williams without her knowledge, correct? Yes. Natural observation is, you never actually spoke to Mrs. Williams yourself? Never conducted a formal clinical interview? Formal interviews can be unreliable as subjects may present themselves inauthentically. Natural observation provides, yes or no, Dr. Valencia. Did you ever actually speak to Mrs. Williams? A pause. No. Did you speak to Mrs. Williams's friends? Her family? Her son's teachers? Anyone who could provide context about her as a mother? My methodology doesn't require yes or no. Another pause. No. So your entire evaluation is based on watching her in public spaces, without context, without conversation, without any input from people who actually know her? My professional training allows me to. And, Dr. Valencia, Attorney Abernathy said, his voice becoming sharper. What is your relationship with Mr. Williams? For the first time, Simone's composure flickered. I'm his hired expert witness. Only his expert witness? Nothing more? Objection. Cromwell was on his feet. The witness's personal life is irrelevant. Your Honor, if this witness is romantically involved with my client's husband, it absolutely speaks to bias, Attorney Abernathy argued. I'll allow it, the judge said. Dr. Valencia, please answer the question. Simone's jaw tightened. Mr. Williams and I are acquainted professionally. Professionally, Attorney Abernathy repeated. Nothing more than that? Objection, badgering. Sustained. Move on, counselor. Attorney Abernathy had planted the seed of doubt, but it wasn't enough. Simone's credentials were too strong, her testimony too polished. As she stepped down from the witness stand, she walked past DeAndre's table. I saw it again, that brief touch on his shoulder, the way he looked at her, and I knew. They thought they'd won. The next day, it was my turn. I sat in the witness box, hands shaking, and tried to remember everything Attorney Abernathy had told me. Stay calm. Tell the truth. Don't let them break you. Attorney Abernathy started with easy questions about my life, my relationship with Isaiah, my daily routine as a mother. Tell the court about your son, he said gently. What's he like? I smiled despite my nerves. Isaiah is wonderful. He's smart, curious, funny. He loves dinosaurs and building things with Legos. He's kind. He shares his toys with other kids. He helps me around the house. He's a good boy. And how would you describe your relationship with him? He's my whole world, I said simply. I gave up my career to raise him. Every day I make sure he has breakfast. I help with homework. I take him to school. We bake cookies together. We watch movies. We read books before bed. I'm not perfect, but I love him with everything I have. Mrs. Williams, your husband has accused you of being forgetful, of missing important events. How do you respond to that? I did miss some things, I admitted. But it wasn't because I forgot. It was because dates were changed without my knowledge. Things were moved. I was set up to fail. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Attorney Abernathy showed the court my notebook, the one I'd started keeping. Your Honor, this is a journal Mrs. Williams began keeping when she started to doubt herself. In it, she documented where she put things, what conversations she had, what tasks she completed. It's evidence that she was trying to keep track of reality while someone was systematically distorting it. Then it was Cromwell's turn. He stood up slowly, adjusted his tie, and approached the witness stand with that smile I'd learned to hate. Mrs. Williams, he began, voice dripping with false sympathy. You've been through a lot, haven't you? Yes. Stressful time, difficult marriage, must be hard on your mental health. I'm not mentally ill. Of course not, he said smoothly. But you have been forgetful, haven't you? Misplacing keys, forgetting appointments? Because my husband was... Because you were forgetting things, he interrupted. And when you couldn't explain why, you blamed your husband. Isn't that easier than accepting that maybe you were having problems? That's not what happened. He pulled out the credit card statement. Mrs. Williams, these charges, luxury handbags, expensive dinners. You claim you didn't make these purchases? I didn't. Even though the card is in your name? Even though it never left your wallet? He must have used it when you what? Weren't paying attention? Because you were forgetting things? Objection, Attorney Abernathy said. Badgering. Sustained. Mr. Cromwell, move on. But Cromwell had made his point. He was painting me as someone who couldn't take responsibility for my own actions. Then he pulled out the photograph. Mrs. Williams, can you explain this image? It was me, in my bedroom, hair wild, face red and swollen from crying, looking completely unhinged. I remembered that night. DeAndre had come home late, smelling like perfume. When I asked him about it, he'd told me I was paranoid, crazy, imagining things. He'd called me a burden, said he was tired of dealing with my problems, said Isaiah would be better off without me. I'd broken down, and apparently, he'd photographed it. Mrs. Williams? I was upset that night. You look more than upset. You look unstable. My husband said cruel things to me. So when your husband says something that hurts your feelings, this is how you react. Screaming, crying, completely out of control? I wasn't out of control. Then explain the photo. He was gaslighting me. The words burst out of me. He'd been manipulating me for months, making me think I was losing my mind, and that night I finally broke down. Gaslighting, Cromwell repeated slowly, like it was a foreign word. That's a convenient excuse, isn't it? When you can't accept responsibility for your own instability, you blame your husband for gaslighting you. It's not an excuse. It's what happened. Mrs. Williams, isn't it true that you've become increasingly paranoid, increasingly unable to function, increasingly unstable? No. Then explain the missing appointments. Explain the burned dinners. Explain the bills that didn't get paid. Explain why your own husband is so concerned about you that he felt he had no choice but to remove his son from your care. He's not concerned. He's manipulating everyone, just like he manipulated me. My voice was rising. I could feel myself losing control, doing exactly what they wanted. You're blaming him again instead of taking responsibility. Because it's his fault. You certainly sound unstable right now, Mrs. Williams. Objection! Attorney Abernathy was on his feet, but the damage was done. I looked at the judge and saw it in his eyes. He thought I was unstable, emotional, unfit. I'd played right into their hands. The rest of my testimony was a blur. I tried to calm down, tried to answer questions rationally, but I could feel the case slipping away from me. When I finally stepped down from the witness stand, Attorney Abernathy squeezed my shoulder gently. "It's okay," he whispered. "We're not done yet." But I knew the truth. We were losing. The night before the final hearing, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers, my notes, my journal, Isaiah's school photos. I kept thinking about everything I'd done wrong, every moment I'd lost my temper, every time I'd cried when I should have stayed strong. I pulled out a piece of paper and started writing. "Dear Isaiah, if you're reading this, it means the worst has happened. It means I lost you. I want you to know that I fought for you with everything I had. I want you to know that being your mother was the greatest joy of my life. I want you to know that no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what you hear, I love you more than life itself. You are my heart. You are my everything. And someday, when you're older, I hope you'll understand that everything I did because I loved you. Love always. Mama." I folded the letter and put it in an envelope with Isaiah's name on it, just in case. The next morning, I put on the same navy dress, did my makeup even though my hands were shaking, drove to the courthouse with Denise beside me, her hand holding mine. "Whatever happens," she said, "you're not alone." But I'd never felt more alone in my life. The courtroom was colder than before, or maybe that was just me. DeAndre sat on his side, looking confident. Simone Valencia sat behind him, dressed in another perfect outfit. Attorney Cromwell looked like a man who'd never lost a case and wasn't about to start now. The judge entered. Everyone stood. "Please be seated." He opened the file in front of him. My entire life, reduced to papers in a folder. "This has been a difficult case," the judge began. "Custody decisions are never easy, especially when there are serious allegations about a parent's mental health and stability." My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. After reviewing all the evidence, the photographic evidence, the financial records, the expert testimony from Dr. Valencia, and the testimony from both parties, this was it. This was the moment he was going to take my son away from me. I closed my eyes. "I find that the mother has exhibited significant—" "Stop!" The voice was small, but clear as a bell. Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway of the courtroom was Isaiah, my 7-year-old son, still in his school uniform, clutching his old broken tablet with both hands. "Isaiah," I gasped. DeAndre went pale. "What are you doing here? Who brought you?" Isaiah didn't answer his father. He walked straight toward the judge, his little legs moving fast, his face set with determination. "Your Honor," he said in his clear, brave voice, "can I show you something? Something my mama doesn't know about?" The courtroom erupted in whispers. "This is highly irregular," Attorney Cromwell sputtered, jumping to his feet. "Your Honor, a child cannot interrupt court proceedings. This is—" "I want to see it," the judge said quietly, his eyes on Isaiah. He waved Isaiah forward. My hands were shaking. What was Isaiah doing? What did he have? A court clerk helped Isaiah connect his old tablet to the courtroom monitors. My son stood there, so small next to the witness box, but standing tall. "Go ahead, son," the judge said gently. Isaiah pressed play. The video filled the screens. The angle was low and shaky, filmed from behind our living room plant. And there, on the screen, were DeAndre and Simone. Not Dr. Valencia in her professional clothes. Simone in a t-shirt and jeans, hair down, sitting on our couch like she owned it. My couch. My home. The entire courtroom went silent. Then the audio started. Simone's voice. Baby, are you sure this is going to work? Your wife isn't completely stupid. My breath caught. DeAndre's voice, laughing. She's stupid enough. I've been making her doubt herself for months. She actually thinks she's losing her mind. No. No, 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 no. Simone. The psychologist report should seal it. But what if her lawyer questions me? DeAndre. They won't get far. You're a real psychologist with real credentials. Nobody's going to question your professional opinion. And besides, I've documented everything perfectly. The photos, the credit cards, all of it. By the time we're done, she'll look so unstable that supervised visitation will be generous. I felt like I couldn't breathe. On screen, DeAndre pulled Simone closer and kissed her. The courtroom was completely silent except for the video playing. Simone. And after the divorce? After you get custody? DeAndre. We sell the house, take the money, and move to Miami like we planned. Fresh start. No more crazy ex-wife to deal with. Simone. What about Isaiah? What if he doesn't want to leave his mother? DeAndre laughed. Actually laughed. DeAndre. He's 7. He'll get over it. I'll buy him whatever he wants. A new gaming system, a puppy, whatever. Kids are easy to manipulate. I heard someone gasp. It might have been me. Simone. I still feel a little guilty about the evaluation. Some of those observations were... DeAndre. Necessary. Look, she was never going to just let me go. I tried to get her to agree to a divorce quietly, but she wanted to work on the marriage. He said it mockingly, cruelly. I don't have time for that. I want out. I want to be with you. And the fastest way to do that is to prove she's unfit. Simone. But the credit card charges? DeAndre. Already transferred the money to your account. $47,000. Not bad for a few months' work, right? On screen, he kissed her again. DeAndre. This time next month I'll be free. Full custody. The house sold. And Keisha will be broken, confused, probably in therapy for years trying to figure out what happened. Simone. She really doesn't suspect anything? DeAndre. No. That's her weakness. She trusts people. She trusted me. They both laughed. The video ended. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Then everyone started talking at once. Order! The judge slammed his gavel down so hard I thought it might break. Order in this court! The room fell silent again. The judge looked at DeAndre, and I had never seen such fury on another human being's face. Mr. Williams, stand up. DeAndre stood slowly. All the color had drained from his face. His expensive suit suddenly looked like a costume. Is that your voice on that recording? Your Honor, I can explain. Is that your voice? A pause. Yes. The judge turned to Simone, who was crying in the back row, her professional mask completely shattered. Dr. Valencia, approach the bench. Simone walked forward on shaking legs, mascara running down her face. Did you write a fraudulent psychological evaluation for this court? I observed her in public, like I said. Did Mr. Williams pay you to write a report that would support his custody case, regardless of the truth? Simone looked at DeAndre, then at me, then at the floor. Yes, she whispered. And are you in a romantic relationship with Mr. Williams? Yes. The judge sat back in his chair. I'd never seen someone look so disgusted. In my 30 years on this bench, he said slowly, his voice shaking with anger, I have never witnessed such a calculated, cruel, evil attempt to destroy another human being. He looked at me. Mrs. Williams, I owe you an apology. This court almost participated in a grave miscarriage of justice. I couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down my face. Then the judge turned back to DeAndre and Simone. "Mr. Williams, your petition for divorce is denied. Not because your marriage should continue, but because I am granting Mrs. Williams the right to file for divorce on the grounds of adultery, fraud, and psychological abuse. You will not receive a penny of marital assets. The house is hers. You will have supervised visitation with your son only after undergoing a complete psychological evaluation, which you will pay for." "Your Honor, please," DeAndre started. "I'm not finished," the judge snapped. "Dr. Valencia, you committed perjury in this courtroom. You used your professional credentials to file a fraudulent report and destroy a woman's life. I am referring you to the State Licensing Board for immediate disciplinary action. I hope they revoke your license permanently." He banged the gavel. "Bailiff, escort both of them out of my courtroom and contact the district attorney's office. I want fraud charges filed against both of them." Two bailiffs moved toward DeAndre and Simone. DeAndre looked back at me one last time. There was nothing in his eyes but defeat. I didn't feel victorious. I felt numb. The judge looked at Isaiah, who was still standing by the monitors, clutching his broken tablet. "Young man, what's your name?" "Isaiah Williams, Your Honor." "Isaiah, you're a very brave boy. You did the right thing, son." Isaiah looked at me. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Mama. I didn't know what to do." I couldn't hold back anymore. I crossed the courtroom and pulled my son into my arms, sobbing into his hair. "You saved me," I whispered. "You saved us both." Around us, the courtroom was in chaos. But in that moment, holding my son, I felt nothing but relief. It was over. We were free. 6 months later, life looked completely different. DeAndre was facing criminal charges for fraud and was living in a small apartment across town. He had supervised visitation with Isaiah twice a month, but he rarely showed up. The last time he'd sent Isaiah a gift, an expensive gaming system, trying to buy back love. Isaiah had looked at it and said, "Mama, can we donate this to a kid who needs it more?" I'd never been more proud of my son. Simone Valencia had lost her psychology license and was, last I heard, working retail somewhere in Valdosta. The house was officially mine. I'd sold it, too many bad memories, and bought a smaller, cozier place in East Atlanta with a backyard where Isaiah could play. I'd gone back to work, starting part-time at a credit union and then going full-time. It felt good to be financially independent again, to know I could take care of myself and my son. But the best part was the healing. Isaiah and I went to family therapy together. We talked about what had happened, about the manipulation, about the fear and confusion he'd felt. "Why did you keep the videos a secret for so long, baby?" I'd asked him during one session. "Because Daddy said you shouldn't know," Isaiah explained. "He told the lady that you were stupid and wouldn't figure it out, and I didn't want to make you sad by telling you Daddy said that. But then, at the trial, I heard the judge was going to take me away from you, and I couldn't let that happen." "You were so brave," I told him. "I was scared," he admitted. "But I love you, Mama. You're my best friend." Those words healed something in me I didn't even know was broken. One night, about 8 months after the trial, Isaiah and I were making cookies together in our new kitchen. He was standing on his step stool, helping me measure flour, telling me about his day at school, just like we used to do. "Mama?" he said suddenly. "Yeah, baby? Are you happy now?" I looked at my son, his sweet face, his curious eyes, his gentle heart, and I smiled. "Yeah, baby. I'm happy now." "Good," he said, going back to stirring the batter. "You deserve to be happy, Mama." I thought about everything that had happened, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the systematic destruction of my sense of self, the trial, The video. DeAndre had tried to erase me, to make me disappear from my own life. But he'd forgotten one thing. The truth has a way of coming out. And love, real, unconditional mother-son love, is stronger than any lie. I walked over and kissed the top of Isaiah's head. I love you, baby. I love you too, Mama. We finished making our cookies, and that night we sat together on the couch eating them warm from the oven, watching a movie, just the two of us. I was free. We were free. And that was enough. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Your support means the world to me. Remember, you are stronger than you think. You are not alone. And the truth always finds a way. With love and respect. Voices of Zora.